I'm so happy to be here on this monthly edition of our BioBites presentation. And if you're new to BioBites, first of all, I'm Jessica Frank. I'm the Biological Medicine Program Manager at the Marion Institute. So happy to be here today. BioBites is our monthly free educational series. It connects you with some of the foremost experts in alternative health, natural healing, biological medicine, speaking on key topics related to wellness and empowered health. So before we roll into our presentation today, just some housekeeping first. I'm inviting you to keep your mics muted. We do record this video, which is really great because you'll get a copy of the recording later. So please keep your mics muted for the presentation. But I'd love to hear where you're calling from or logging on from. So in the chat function, tell us where you're located. That's great. Second, there are two parts of today's presentation. The first half is Dr. Roberts talking to us about building a healthy child. And the second half will move into kind of a Q&A. And for that, you're welcome to chat into or ask your question into the chat, and we'll keep tabs on that and get to those in the second part of our presentation. And third, go ahead to announce our next BioBites. That's going to be held on June 4th, again, 12 noon, Tuesday, so that's Eastern time. And this episode will feature our very own Rita Higgins, and she'll be discussing bringing it home, how at-home gardens fight climate change, the intersectionality of food health, environmental health, and human health. So make sure you're getting our emails and, of course, following us on your favorite social channels. And we'll also share that registration link in the chat during the program. After the program ends, you'll receive some resources. Again, the presentation slides will be sent to you, plus the recording and an audio version as well. Maybe a few bonus resources too. So, okay, without further ado, today's topic is all about how to be preemptive and even proactive when it comes to the health of our children. Here to break this down for us is Dr. Melina Roberts, the Clinical Director of Advanced Naturopathic Medical Centre in Calgary, Canada. Dr. Roberts is recognized as one of the top biological medicine practitioners in North America and was selected to be a lead North American lecturer for the Paracelsus Academy and is a lead lecturer for Biomed International. Dr. Roberts is also a TEDx speaker at TEDx Queens Village in New York. She was recognized as a top naturopathic doctor by the International Association of Healthcare Professionals in 2012. She's a leading authority in European biological medicine, incorporating the most innovative technology to treat complex chronic disease, women's health issues, hormonal balancing, pediatric health, digestive disorders, and cancer. The Advanced Naturopathic Medical Centre, her clinic, was awarded the Consumer Choice Award for Naturopathic Medicine in Calgary in 2017 and 2018. And I'm going to keep going with some accolades here. She's published author of the book Building a Healthy Child, has articles in scientific journals and magazines like the Clinical Journal of Sport Medicine, Townsend Letter, Food Matters, Alive magazine, and Impact magazine, and she's been featured in ABC, NBC, Fox, CW, CBS, Canada News Journal, and many more. Last but not least, fun fact, Dr. Roberts is a black belt in karate and a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. Okay, so we are real lucky to have her, and I can't wait to hear what she has to say about building a healthy child. So at this point, I will hand it over to you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I'm hoping everyone can hear me well as I set up the presentation. Yeah, hopefully sound is good, and that works, right?
Looks great. Sounds great.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about building a healthy child, but I'm also, going to touch on how are we going to actually build health so we can truly prevent chronic disease. And, in our ideal world, if we can build our children's health correctly from the beginning, then we can prevent chronic disease in their future. And so this is really going back to instead like truly preventative medicine. If we just want to make sure that instead of just treating chronic disease all the time, but going back to how can we prevent all of these problems from happening, we got to go back to like you can even go back before pregnancy all the pregnancy stuff that you want to do ahead of time, but then we've got to make sure that we're taking care of our kids' health. So that's really what I'm going to be going into today. Jessica did a wonderful job in doing my intro, so I don't really need to go through this again. But I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I've been practicing for about 20 years now, believe it or not. So, my story, like most people's story, have a personal journey behind it. We all have a personal reason for why we do what we do, and this is my story. So, my story is that I was a kid who had really bad allergies and eczema. Um, and I'll go into that a little bit more because this is actually one of the reasons I became a naturopathic doctor was that when I was about 13, a family friend said to my parents, you know, you should try taking her to see a naturopathic doctor. And they brought me to see a naturopathic doctor. And within a few months of seeing this doctor and following his plan, all of my allergies and eczema cleared up. So to me, it was like magic. I didn't really understand how that all worked. So I was pretty amazed. And that really was my personal experience of why I ended up going into naturopathic medicine in the first place. Um, we'll fast forward to graduating, practicing for a number of years, then becoming a mother and wanting to take some steps to make sure that my kid didn't have to go through the same health challenges that I went through and wondering, is there a possibility that I could prevent this in my kid? And as a practicing naturopath, as well as doing some specialized training in biological medicine, I had come to know that like that the key to health lied in the gut. And I had patient parents in my practice who'd bring in kids, and they'd also be wondering, can I prevent food allergies, sensitivities, digestive discomfort, sort of regular illnesses in their children, and how can they do this? And what I realized was that there was a way. There was a way for us to be able to really avoid food allergies and avoid all of those childhood ailments. And so I was able to apply this to building my daughter's health from the ground up, but also to help lots of my patients to be able to do that for their children, to be able to build health from the beginning. So this is my journey, and I'll go into it a bit more, go into some background of that. And so after I graduated from the naturopathic college, I did a 2-year program with the Paracelsus Clinic, and I basically did a deep dive into biological medicine. So the Paracelsus Clinic is a clinic at the time was run by Dr. Thomas Rau in Switzerland. And so I got to learn so much about this different approach to medicine. And it did overlap a lot with naturopathic medicine in that the philosophies behind it were that the body has an innate ability to be able to heal itself. But the difference is that biological medicine really focuses on that we need to set up an environment that allows it to do so. And it's a really systematic way of looking at health, because what you want to do in order to get the body to function properly, you need to do two main things. You need to identify and remove stressors from the body. And then we need to improve organ function. So those are the two main things that we're doing with biological medicine. But there's also two major tenets of biological medicine that are really important for how the body functions. So the first one is adaptability. So how well our body is able to adapt to stressors in its environment, either internally or externally, and how well our body can adapt to those stressors it actually dictates how well our body is able to heal. So our adaptability, our self-healing, self-regulating mechanisms are really important. And that's really how I define health. Health is how well our body can adapt to stress. And just in the corner there, one of the ways that we assess that adaptability is with a test called heart rate variability. So the better our bodies are in terms of adaptability, then our heart rate variability is in a more coherent aspect where we're better at self-regulating. If our body isn't adaptable, then we have incoherence. And so we will see that in our testing with something called heart rate variability testing. And then the other thing that biological medicine really focuses on is terrain. So that's the area around ourselves, so the extracellular matrix. And this extracellular matrix is what actually dictates the health of our body and dictates and guides our body's ability to be able to self-regulate. And really our focus is always on terrain, which always is so interesting to me because we always have to be looking at what is influencing that terrain. The analogy I love to use is that if you have a plant that is sick, you don't do anything, you don't manipulate the plant in any way in order to help it to regain health. You change the soil that plant is in order to help it to regain health. And that's the same thing that we do with human health. Human health is all about cleaning up the terrain. And if you clean up the terrain, then we can have healthy cells. And one of the ways that we look at that in our clinic in biological medicine is we do something called dark field microscopy. So we look at the live blood cells underneath the microscope, and we actually get a glimpse of what that internal environment is looking like. So biological medicine, I think that what we really learn in biological medicine is this is understanding that health really begins in the digestive tract, right? So you'll hear these from Hippocrates. You'll see that food is our medicine and medicine should be our food, that all disease begins in the gut. And this still holds true today. And I don't think that we actually give it enough in terms of health, that we always need to be focusing on the digestive tract. So you'll hear me say that a lot in this presentation because it's so important in terms of building health. Okay, there we go. So yeah, digestive health is really the key to long-term health. If we want to build health in people's bodies, we need to focus on making sure that we take care of their digestive tract. And so in my practice, what I see, I treat a lot of chronic disease, cancer, complex chronic disease. So it's, and anytime anyone comes into my clinic, my focus is always on making sure I take care of their digestive tract. So we are literally what we eat, and our body has the ability to be able to absorb. So we convert the foods we eat into every cell, tissue, organ of our body. What we eat becomes every cell of our body. So what we eat and how well our digestive tract absorbs the nutrients from the foods we eat dictates the health of our body. The better shape our digestive tract is in, the better health we are in. So this is really key to understanding long-term health. If we want to build long-term health, we got to build it in the digestive tract. So this is the importance of the digestive tract. It comes down to 4 things that make the digestive tract extremely important. One is absorption. So we absorb the nutrients from the foods we're eating. And that's the building block of all the different cells in our body. So we have to make sure that that digestive tract is working well so that we can properly absorb nutrients. The another thing that the digestive tract is important for is elimination. So we need to be able to eliminate things that our body doesn't need. So including toxic loads or anything that we've taken in that our body is trying to dispose of. We need to make sure that our bowels are moving well. This is an important part of the digestive tract. And they need to be moving, at least 1 to 3 times a day. I will always be asking my patients about their bowel movements because elimination will tell me a lot about what's going on in that digestive tract. So elimination is an extremely important part of how this digestive tract works. The other part is understanding that it's a huge barrier. So it's basically our barrier to the outside world. And that barrier is actually not very huge. Like the lining of our digestive tract is just 1 cell deep. And then on top of that digestive tract is our microbiome. So it's those microbes. So this is our barrier to the outside world. And so we have to make sure we really take care of that microbiome and that lining of the digestive tract. They need to be working really well in order for our digestive tracts to be working well. And the other part that plays a huge role in terms of our digestive tract is that about 80% of our immune system is housed in our gut. So we have to make sure that our digestive tract is working really well in order to have really strong immunity. Because right on I talked about the 1 cell deep lining of our digestive tract. On the inside of that is where a large amount of our immune cells live. One of the huge ones that live there are the gut-associated lymphoid tissues. So the GALT, and these this is a big part of the lymphatic system. It's a big part of the immune system, but that's the part that's saying, okay, should we let this in or do we need to break it down? So our immune system is a huge part of why the digestive tract is so important. So here's some statistics for you. And one of these is like right from the CDC, and you can see it right here. It's 40% of school-age children and adolescents have at least one chronic health condition. So that's pretty high that our children are having chronic health conditions. You can see here statistics. Food allergies are on the rise. And asthma is probably the most common emergency visit in Canada. And like about 12% of children have asthma. So kids and chronic disease is actually really high. And the other statistics for adults is that chronic disease itself is on the rise. So we see increases in diabetes, in heart disease, in cancer. So these are all increasing every year. And you get the doom and gloom, but what I want you to understand is that we have the ability to change these statistics. So we have the ability to be able to prevent chronic digestive disturbances in our children. So abdominal, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, colic. Prevent common childhood issues. So the things that we see so commonly in our kids, and we think that this is normal, but we can be preventing this. So allergies, eczema, ear infections, asthma, mood swings, irritability, behavior problems, the ADHD issues. And then preventing chronic disease in adults. And this can all be changed by how we feed our children. So we also have a big responsibility as parents too. So we have an ability to be able to build a solid foundation for long-term health. Now, this is I don't know if anyone's heard of the Pottinger cat study, but it's really interesting research. And what they found with these cats was that if they give these cats a diet that is not ideal for their digestive tract, then these cats will develop all sorts of allergies. And then if this diet is continued for the second generation, then the incidence of allergies increases. And by the third generation, the incidence of allergies is close to 100%. So this really just shows the generational problems with eating a diet that is not ideal for their digestive tracts. And the comment I'll often get, because these are cats, is but tell me more about like what's happening with humans. So what they've shown in humans, it's hard to do that kind of generational study that they're able to do with cats because we have longer lifespans. So it's harder to do that. But what they have found in human studies is that if a baby is breastfed exclusively for the first 4 months, that there's a reduction in the incidence of allergies. If there's an early diet of real foods like fruits and vegetables and healthy fats, then the incidence of allergies decreases. If babies are giving probiotics early in life, that the incidence of allergies decreases. So these are different things that I also have implemented into my plan. So my food introduction plan encompasses like 3 discoveries that I came across that are the foundations of my food introduction program. So one is that we want to build a healthy microbiome. Oops. We want to support proper child development by introducing foods in line with organ maturation. And we want our children to be eating real nutrient-dense foods and to be avoiding processed, chemically laden foods. So really, from all the data I've seen out there, there is no food introduction program that takes all of these concepts into consideration. So, talking about the developing microbiome. So, the microbiome is that ecosystem of bacteria and fungus that live within our digestive tracts. And this microbiome is really essential for how we process nutrients, proper immune function, preventing disease progression. And the microbiome, in order for it to be healthy, we have to have diversity of those microbiome. And we also have to have balance of what we call the healthy and unhealthy bacteria. So that's what helps to make that microbiome as healthy as possible and can determine overall health and longevity. And how that microbiome becomes colonized is, first of all, from a vaginal birth. What they've shown in studies is that a baby who has a vaginal birth compared to a baby who has a C-section, that their microbiomes are completely different. And the other thing is that a baby who is breastfed versus a baby who is formula fed have very different microbiomes. So that's the first way that the digestive tracts, those microbiomes, are colonized. And then the next way that they're colonized is by how foods are introduced. And what I found so interesting was that we actually build this unique foundation of microbes between basically between birth and age 3. So we have this window of opportunity to build this foundation of their gut flora. So the other concept that my plan is based on is on something called ontogenetics. And ontogenetics, what it is it's the study of human development from embryo to adulthood. And what happens is that our organs begin to develop in the womb, and then they reach full maturation at different stages outside the womb as we age. And so we need to be introducing foods in line with how these organs are maturing. So one of the key ones is that when babies are born, their digestive tracts are hyperpermeable. So they will absorb really anything that comes into their system. So we need to actually be really careful with what we introduce into their digestive tracts. So ideally, it's something that's highly nutritious, like breast milk. The other thing that, in terms of development, is that the blood-brain barrier is not fully developed until 12 months of age. So we have to be really careful, again, what we introduce in that first year of life, because it can be potentially crossing the blood-brain barrier and affecting our nervous system and brain development. And this is also a really important one to me, is that the pancreas doesn't reach full maturation. And the pancreas is what releases enzymes to help break down grains. So it doesn't reach full maturation till around 2 years of age. So we really shouldn't be introducing grains until age 2. So is really important, and it's a tough one for parents to take in because of all of the I'm going to say information or misinformation that they've been told. For sure, they're like, my pediatrician told me I can do this, or like someone that they really respect in the food introduction and taking care of their baby information, is that they often get told that the first foods to introduce should be cereals. But really, our pancreas hasn't reached full maturation, so we can't actually fully break down those grains. So we should not actually be introducing any sort of grains, including rice, until after 2 years of age. And then the other one that's important to understand is the liver. The liver doesn't reach full maturation till around 4 or 5 years old. And even when they're 4 or 5 years old, their liver is still not working at adult capacity to what kind of toxic loads their systems are able to handle and manage. So we ought to be really careful with the kind of toxins that we're introducing to our children. And then the other one is that our immune system doesn't reach full maturation till age 7. So so in terms of how our immune system is just constantly coming across infectious agents, or coming across viruses, and then being educated. So it has to mount a response, and then it can mount that response really for life. So throughout those early years, that's when kids are getting sick a lot. But it's okay for them to be getting sick because their immune system's becoming educated. So we have to just realize that even in terms of foods, that immune system is becoming educated. So we have to give it time to be able to become fully educated. And the other concept as well is that since the beginning of time, our bodies have been hardwired to break down real food. And I think probably with this audience, that makes complete sense to you. But I would say that if you look at what children are eating, most children are eating processed foods, foods that are coming out of packages that are stripped of nutritional value, that are fortified with nutrients, and really lack proper building blocks in order to help support their overall function. So we need to be feeding our children real food. So a lot of our food supply now is infiltrated with chemicals. So it's sprayed with pesticides, herbicides, insecticides. It's injected with antibiotics, hormones, preservatives, food additives, dyes. Just look at the label. You can see that there's tons of stuff that we shouldn't be eating. Our foods have been manipulated, right? So they've been changed, genetically modified. Microwaving our foods also changes the structure, the protein structure of our foods. And doing this makes it challenging for us to be able to properly break them down, properly metabolize these foods. So we really need to recognize this and be feeding our children foods that their bodies can recognize and make into useful fuels. Now, breastfeeding's very important for our growing baby, and I know that there's some women who aren't able to breastfeed, who aren't able to produce milk, and that's usually the pushback I get from this. But in an ideal world, if we're able to breastfeed, that's what we should be doing, because this is the best thing for our babies is breast milk. It's the perfect food. It's made, it gives our body all the proper nutrients they need to grow and develop. And then it also gives our body immune system, we receive our innate immune system from our breast milk. Gives us the nutrients, the hormones, the enzymes, the healthy bacteria to properly grow and develop. So my recommendation is that we exclusively breastfeed for at least 6 months, and that we are breastfeeding for a year. And the statistics do show that children who are exposed to cow's milk, which is typically the primary component in most formulas, if they are exposed to cow's milk before 4 months of age, that they have a 50 to 60% increase in developing type 1 diabetes. Crazy high statistics, really. They've shown that there's statistics that show that breastfed children have a 8 to 3 point higher IQ than formula-fed babies. Another reason to breastfeed. And then breastfed children have reduced risk of asthma and overall lung function problems. So mom's diet during breastfeeding is also really important. This is also a tough one when I have patients coming in, and they're coming in and they're saying, oh, my child has colic, or my child has eczema or something, right? And I don't understand how this is happening because we haven't even introduced foods yet, and we're just breastfeeding the baby. And I have to break the news to them that what mom eats is really important to breastfeeding. So we actually have to go through and change mom's diet in order to improve baby symptoms. So mom's diet when breastfeeding is important because anything that mom eats will move into the breast milk. We need to be paying close attention to anything that's happening with the baby, from some rashes to wheezing, eczema, colic, spitting up, vomiting, painful gas. All of these are just indications that the body is trying to eliminate something that it can't process. So we need to be paying close attention to this and really like eliminating any of the allergens from mom's diet. Most common things I say for mom to avoid is one is alcoholic beverages. Cow's dairy, wheat, corn, refined sugar, I say should be completely avoided. And then limiting things that are high potential allergens, which can be eggs, pork, soy, coffee. All of those things are potential problems as well. But yeah, that's sort of in general, recommendation. And first foods. So remembering that an infant's small intestine is very hyperpermeable. So they are able to absorb things a lot higher capacity than an adult. They're also fast growing, right? So the intestines have limited digestive capacity due to their lack of development of all the necessary digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes haven't completely been that we're not releasing enough of those digestive enzymes. So I talked about that in terms of like the pancreas doesn't reach full maturation till around 2. So we're not releasing all of the enzymes as well to break down foods. So we have to be really careful with how we introduce foods because some of these proteins can be making their way into their bloodstream, and this can be causing a number of different symptoms. So we have to be really careful about how we introduce those first foods. So this is my plan here. And so basically at 6 months of age, you want to be introducing hyperallergenic vegetables that are easy to digest. And then at 8 months, we can introduce fruits. At 10 months, then we can introduce proteins and tougher to metabolize vegetables. At 12 months, often women are weaning their baby off of breast milk. And so that's when I would say that we can do the goat's milk. And then this is also when you do like the more acidic fruits and vegetables, which might be a bit more hyperallergenic. At 18 months, this is when you do a bit more complex carbohydrates. So this is the beans, the lentils, rice, quinoa. And then at 24 months, so you just want to hold on and wait till the immune system is stronger and more developed before you introduce the grains and also those more hyperallergenic foods like the cow's dairy, the eggs, the soy, nuts. And then at 3 years of age, sometimes you just want to wait a bit longer in terms of introducing some of those hyperallergenic foods. So, like one of those major hyperallergenic foods that we're seeing a lot in children is the peanuts. So, I say wait till around the 3 years till we have a stronger immune system, more development of the microbiome, more maturity in terms of the lining of the digestive tract before we introduce those hyperallergenic foods. Okay. And then some introduction tips. So in terms of introducing new foods, I say to introduce small amounts in the morning. So it gives us the whole day to be able to watch our child and make sure that they're not having any reaction to that food, as opposed to giving them a new food at dinner time and then they go to bed. So you want to be doing it new food in the morning. And then you're watching them and you're watching if they have any type of reaction. So whether they get a runny nose, sneezing, rash around their mouth, rash around their anus, changes in stool, changes in personality. So all of those things you're paying attention to, because those can all be signs that that food might not be working for them. And then with premature babies, I say to introduce their foods according to their adjusted age. So, sometimes, if a baby is born like a month early, then you don't want to be introducing foods till they are, technically that 7 months of age, as opposed to the 6 months. And then when we're looking at food, we want to decrease the toxic load that we're doing with all of our children. So we want to be choosing foods that are organic, non-GMO, lower toxicity load because their livers just can't handle a higher toxicity load. Um, so just some case studies in terms of what I've seen in my practice, which is quite common. So, and I would say that my patients who are the best with following this plan are patients who are already uh already a patient, like the mom is already a patient of my clinic and understands how I practice, and then they follow this plan with their children. I find that those are the ones that do the best, as opposed to when patients don't understand how I work, and how the kind of introductions that I do, and then they find it really tough to make those changes with the diet for their children and make those changes with their own diet, as the mom. But this is a case where it was a patient, a long-term patient of mine who had a child. They followed the plan exactly, and their son had no allergies, no eczema, no ear infections, hasn't been on any antibiotics, so does quite well, and I get to see that a lot, which I love to see. Um, and then there was, and I like to give these examples because I know that there's some women who aren't able to breastfeed, and so she wasn't able to breastfeed, and so for the first child, they had them on a commercial formula, and this child was spitting up all the time, not sitting up, so not reaching their benchmarks, always seemed uncomfortable. So I saw the child around 8 months, and so I just changed the child to a homemade formula. And what you could see is that they stopped spitting up, they reached their developmental milestones, seemed healthy and happy. Um, and yeah, so we're able to kind of heal up the gut and remove any of the damage that had happened with the formula. And now she's a happy, healthy girl. So we get to see. And then I think we talk about, yeah, and then they had a second child. And so mom's still unable to breastfeed with the second child, but we were prepared and we had her starting with a homemade formula. And with that homemade formula, baby was, no allergies, no eczema, no ear infections, and not needing any antibiotics. So we can see that even if they're not able to breastfeed, that we can get different formulas. And I'm pretty biased when it comes to formulas, is that there's really not many good formulas. I'm going to say in North America. Um, when I either get patients to do a homemade formula, or we get them to get a formula from a goat formula from Europe. I believe it's from Germany, and those ones are cleaner sources. The formula, if someone wants to start a company in North America making baby formulas that are better than the ones out there, if you read through those labels, it's really disheartening. It's horrible to see what they're feeding our children. It'll be filled with like canola oils and and a whole bunch of junk, so that we shouldn't be feeding our children. So, and I think the challenge always comes with like, what if I didn't do this with my child? Did I mess them up? And and I always just say, it's easier to build the body up right from the beginning, but if you didn't follow the plan, there's still hope, right? So we still have hope. It just takes more work. So our body is a dynamic system. It's constantly breaking down and building back up. We are always making new cells that replace the old cells. Like I always find that these are so interesting. A colon cell is replaced every 4 days. Skin cells are replaced every is that 2 weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks. Red blood cells every 3 months. Our white blood cells, they live for about a year. So we have an entire new body, cells and everything about every 7 years or so. And so that means that if children don't follow this food introduction plan, we just have to create a right environment and give the body the correct building blocks. And then we have that opportunity to be able to build that healthy gut flora from the beginning. But what I say is that, like, we can do it right at the beginning. It makes it easier. If we can build it correctly from that birth to age 3, we build them with a solid foundation. Otherwise, it just takes more work, right? It's more labor intensive, but it's possible. So this is what we can all benefit from, is by removing these 6 foods, which are just major inflammatory foods for all of us, and really not foods that are building health in our body. And I'm not sure how much time I have. I can go through these in a bit more detail. But wheat, what's happened over the last 100 years is that they've changed the grain. So it's really, they've made it so it has a higher percentage of gluten in it. And with that, it makes it hard for our bodies to be able to effectively break them down. And so it becomes an inflammatory food. So wheat is a problem. Cow's dairy, the problem with cow's dairy is a protein in it called casein A1. Casein A1 is a protein that's designed for cows' digestive tracts, not our human digestive tracts. So we can't break it down effectively. So it ends up causing inflammation in our guts. So there's also other problems with cow's dairy. So there's the casein A1. There's the problems that they've been injected with hormones, antibodies, that when they do the pasteurization with the water, they basically heat up the water, and any enzymes that are beneficial in that cow's dairy really just get killed off. So by the time it's an end product for us, it's really not beneficial for us to be consuming. Soy, one of the major problems with soy is that about 90% of the soy on the North American market is genetically modified. And that's the same with corn. About 90 to 95% of the corn on the North American market is genetically modified. Problems with sugar. Sugar really has no nutritional value. It's increasing our blood sugars, and really causing inflammation, and inflammation is damaging our cells. It also feeds the unhealthy bacteria and fungus in our gut, so it throws off our microbiome. So lots of problems with why we shouldn't be consuming white refined sugar. But there are replacements, like in terms of white refined sugars, having real maple syrup, raw honey, monk fruit, stevia. Those are other replacements that we could have, so we can still have sweetness in our diet without having the white refined sugar. And then industrial oils. So industrial oils are ones that we should also be staying away from. They often get called heart healthy vegetable oils, which they are not, because they are highly refined, adulterated oils. They use high heats. They use chemicals in order to extract the oils. And so by time they become an end user, they are not healthy for us to be consuming. They are highly inflammatory in our body. Omega-6s, they can get incorporated into our cells, which makes the cells weaker. So really, if we want to be healthy, we need to be removing these 6 foods from our diet. And so we would all benefit from removing these major inflammatory foods. And this will help to make sure that we heal our gut and that we can properly absorb the nutrients from the foods we're eating, and we can start building health in our body. And I think that brings me to the end. So these are all the different ways you can reach me or follow me. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you being here, and I hope that you found this information valuable. Um, and yeah, so I will turn over the mic to Jessica if anyone has any questions. I believe that's the next portion, answering some questions.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. Yes, I think, yeah, you can stop your screen share and we'll just go
Yeah.
straight on in. We have
Yeah.
about 10 minutes left, and I do see
Okay. Yeah.
some that came
Yeah.
in through the chat.
Okay.
No
Yeah.
worries. Yeah, so first of all, back up to when we were talking about the infants, the maturation of organs.
Yeah.
What is it about the grain that's indigestible before the age of 2? And then what is it in the human that is not ready yet or is not developed
Yeah.
yet until the age of 2? What's that
Yeah.
relationship?
So basically, um, so so um our organs, they start to develop like in utero, so in the womb, and then they don't reach full maturation until different stages outside the womb for each organ system. So the pancreas, one of the main functions of the pancreas is that it releases enzymes that help to break down grains. And so our pancreas doesn't reach that full maturation until around age 2. So we actually don't have the enzymes to break down grains until age 2.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
Moving forward, when we were talking about what's okay for breastfeeding moms, can a breastfeeding mom can she ingest rice?
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
she can
Okay.
she can take those in. Yeah.
Okay.
So she can take in the grains. It's
Yep.
just that yeah, once we start to
Okay.
do food introduction to yeah, because the thing is that
Yeah.
typically with an adult, you have the enzymes to break them down so that those proteins don't end
Okay.
up crossing over.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That totally.
They're
Yeah.
good. They're good
Okay.
questions though. These are
That
great.
totally makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, because obviously it's being processed before it goes into the
Yeah. Yeah.
infant's
Yeah.
body. So, what about plant-based milks by 12 months old?
Yeah, you can do plant-based milks like you're talking about, like almond milks, coconut milks, hemp milks, and stuff like that. The challenge is that they still don't have like a high nutritional value in terms of like goat's milk. So the reason I say to kind of transition to goat's milk is that goat's milk will still have a lot of those nutrients and fats that our babies need. But also, when once we reach around a year of age, typically, as long as they are getting all of the nutrients, if as long as baby is getting all the nutrients from the foods, the solid foods that they're eating, it doesn't really matter that what the milk source is in terms
Okay.
of making sure that they get the nutrition from those sources of milk.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Why are there conventional doctors telling parents to start peanuts earlier? Have you heard this?
Yeah, so and
Okay.
I've made blogs about this because I know that there's basically there's a study out there that has shown that if you introduce out like hyper allergenic foods like peanuts, if you introduce them early, so they are introduced so in minute amounts at like 4 months of age, there'll be a decrease in the incidence of allergies. So that's what a lot of recommendations are happening in terms of kind of the conventional world.
Like
Um,
exposure therapy almost.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So so what so that's what that research is showing. Um, and so but so this is in like I'm going to say the general public, and they just see a reduction in allergies. Now, of course, this is kind of anecdotal because I'm just talking about my patient, what I've seen in terms of my patient population. But with my patient population, if we give the body some time to build up a healthy microbiome, give it time to be able to heal up the lining of the digestive tract, and make sure that the immune system is not activated, with my patient population, if you actually follow this plan as I've laid it out, we actually have an incidence of 0. I've seen 0 children have peanut allergies. So it's not, so I think that we just have to give the body some time and not be introducing some of those inflammatory foods. So that study was done on kind of the average population of kids who are introduced cereals as first foods, who are given processed foods that are stuck with like chemicals and GMOs. So they haven't taken the time. They've seen a reduction. So that's what they're basing their research on. I would say that, so that's where, if you're willing to take the time to do the food introduction to help build up that gut properly from the beginning, I have seen 0. So not just a reduction, 0 kids have like peanut allergies. None of my patients who followed that plan, that we haven't seen any. So that's my take on all of that. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Have it with read that with a skeptical eye. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I am curious to know how your cyclical personal story has panned out. You have a daughter. Were you able to stop the process of hereditary
Yeah.
allergies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So um I put this plan together a while ago. So now my daughter is 16. So I have a teenager, and yeah, we've been able to, build her health great from the beginning, and really, like, yeah, she doesn't have any food allergies or, yep. So, but the thing is like, I think also because she's my child, is that her diet is quite clean. So, I think anytime she eats something that's not clean, her body tells her that too. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily an allergy, but she has a pretty good indication that if she eats a food um,
Mm,
that is not an ideal food, that her body tells her right away. So that's, yeah,
mm, great. I
which
had
I
a
don't think is a bad thing, but yeah,
Not at all. No,
yeah,
not at all. M
yeah,
Most of us aren't aware of that, even as we're fully fledged adults.
yeah,
So I had a question about toxic loads. So that's obviously a big tenet of biological medicine.
yeah.
And I'm hearing from you that, infants have toxic loads, but how would you manage toxic load in someone so tiny who hasn't developed their organ systems? How does one manage or cleanse the toxic load of a child?
Yeah. So, and the challenge is that, like, babies today are coming into a world that is so toxic, right? So we do continuously need to be working on these organ systems. I do like really gentle drainage remedies with babies. And so the drainage remedies are usually like a mixture of different homeopathics. Sometimes there's some botanicals in there as well. And that have like an affinity for certain organ systems. And so those drainage remedy, that's typically what I'll do with them. And with those drainage remedies, we can put them in their directly into their mouth, or if they won't take them, you can even just put those remedies right onto their skin, because anything you put onto their skin gets absorbed into the tissues below. So that's one way that we can be getting those remedies into those kids. But yeah, unfortunately,
Mhm.
like they come in with like they come into this world already with tons of toxins. So often I am opening up detox pathways to make sure that
Mm,
the toxins can effectively move out and that we can get their body back into better health.
mm. That's great. Setting
Yeah.
them up. I love it.
Yeah.
Preemptive and proactive.
Yes. Yeah.
So we are out of time,
Okay.
unfortunately, but I had a question. Are we going to be able to, would it be possible for me to share the infant formula as a resource?
Um,
And
yep. Yeah.
yeah,
So I think
okay.
have I
You
forward
should,
I need to
yes,
forward you
yes.
probably that infant formula. And I would also was going to forward you, which I'm not sure if I have already, the sheet, the one page sheet for food introduction that people
Yep.
can share. Yeah.
Great. I have those. You did send them to me, so
Okay,
we are all
perfect.
set
Yeah.
there. So that will be included in our follow-up
Yeah.
email. So you'll get the
Perfect.
several resources, including that packet. And
Yeah.
I just want to say to everybody, thank you so much. This was absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to tell it to my younger cousins and
Okay. Yeah.
share it around. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that everybody gets our information about the next BioBite. So that just got dropped into the chat. So feel free to go ahead and everybody click on that link and register for the next month's Bio Bites. And I guess that's it. If you have any final words you'd like to say, we really want to say thank you so much for being here. This was
Yeah.
amazing. Thanks.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.